If you follow me on Twitter, you probably know that this week is Mspec Lesbian Week, a week for showing appreciation to bi-lesbians, pan-lesbians, omni-lesbians, and I've even seen people lump in lesboys and such as well. So I thought it was a perfect time to make another bi-lesbian video, since my other one was poorly made. Let's hope I'm actually gonna be able to get this video out in time. No amount of hate, harassment, bullying will make me private or unlist or delete this video. Because I did that with my first two videos on bi-lesbians. The first one I ever made, the really not that good one, and the response I did to Crying Blossom's response on me, which, by the way, I still agree that Crying Blossom's response was fucking insane, and I don't even know why. Like, I got fucking convinced that, oh, I need to apologize to them. No. My video on Crying Blossom was completely fucking justified. Anyway, that's a whole thing. Maybe, who knows, Crying Blossom video part 2? Would Crying Blossom make another fucking terrible-ass, gross video shitting on people that they don't understand? Maybe. That'd be funny, you know? Maybe I'll make a little response now that I'm a bit more educated and have done a lot more research. There will be some old points from my old video in this, because I still agree with those points, even if they weren't explained the best, along with a lot of new stuff I found from doing research and listening to what other Mspec lesbians had to say, and all that, because a lot of people brought up a lot of really, really good points on, like, Twitter and stuff that I kind of pushed into my video a little bit. I really think that Mspec lesbians do deserve to be defended, same with lesboys. But yeah, without further ado, let's get on to the video. First, let's go through some definitions you'll need to know about. We're just gonna get all that out of the way, so we don't have to deal with it later. Yeah, first of all, Mspec, short for multi-attraction spectrum or multi-spectrum, is a term that refers to anyone who is sexually and or romantically attracted to more than one gender. For example, I'm bisexual, making me Mspec because I like men, women, and non-binary identities. This term also includes pansexuals, omnisexuals, and even lesbians in some cases. We'll get into that later. An Mspec lesbian is a lesbian who is sexually and or romantically attracted to multiple genders. The most common type of Mspec lesbian is a lesbian who is attracted to non-binary people, though this also includes bi-lesbians, pan-lesbians, omni-lesbians, etc. Bi-lesbian is a type of Mspec lesbian that refers to a bisexual homoromantic or homosexual biromantic who feels the most comfortable using the label bi-lesbian, though sometimes people also use the term for other reasons, like to accentuate their preference for women, even if they also like men. This definition also applies to pan and omni lesbians. Just replace all the times I say bi with pan or omni. A lesboy is a lesbian who is male-aligned. It's often used by trans men who still feel connected to lesbianism or non-binary lesbians who are male-aligned, though it's not exclusive to trans men and non-binary people. A TERF is an acronym that stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist, and is basically someone who calls themselves a feminist but excludes trans women. They are known for their very fear-mongery and scapegoat arguments, painting trans women as evil fetishistic predators trying to enforce the patriarchy, and trans men as victims taken by the evil trans agenda. Their arguments are very recognizable in a lot of cases and are very obviously wrong. Radinclus, short for radical inclusivity, is believing in the inclusivity of all good faith identities in the LGBT community, no matter how weird or odd they seem. This includes Mspec lesbians, xenogenders, lesboys, etc. These people can also just be called inclusionists. Lesbian separatism is a form of feminist separatism. It's when lesbians try to separate themselves from non-lesbians. It's the belief that anyone who isn't a lesbian is contributing to the patriarchy, and therefore lesbians want to separate themselves from the rest of the LGBT community and from men. Oftentimes now it seems like this belief in certain people is more, it's less obvious and a little bit more like deep buried down into their beliefs, so it's not super obvious all the time. Like most of the time, feminists aren't going running around saying that like everyone who likes men should die or that they're morally wrong, but they often have those kinds of beliefs, subconsciously. A xenogender is a gender identity that is removed from our current scientific understanding of gender. Xenogenders can be based on animals, objects, experiences, characters, and more. A popular example is cat gender. Xenogenders are often used and created by neurodivergent people, as we often have a different understanding and connection with our gender than neurotypicals do, though most xenos aren't neurodivergent exclusive. Xenogenders are often coined and used to express people's gender in a fun, non-standard way. A lesbian exclusionist is similar to a lesbian separatist. It's someone who excludes certain types of lesbians from the lesbian label. The lesbians being excluded in this specific discourse are Mspec lesbians and lesboys. And I think that's all you need to know. Let's get on to the arguments and such. Online, there's a big debate on Mspec lesbians and whether they're valid or not. I'm here to tell you that they are indeed valid, and so are lesboys. And here's why. Lesbian exclusionists say that Mspec lesbians can't possibly be a thing because the definition of lesbian excludes them, which may seem like an okay argument at first, until you realize that a lot of these types of exclusionists aren't against lesbians who identify as non-binary, which makes absolutely no sense. When I say it makes absolutely no sense, I'm not saying that non-binary lesbians don't make sense. I'm saying the hypocrisy and weird contradictory of exclusionists makes no sense, I promise. Here's the official Oxford definition of lesbian, straight from Google. Denoting or relating to women who are sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to other women, or to sexual attraction or activity between women. A woman who is sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to other women, a gay woman. Now, as you can clearly see, there is no mention of non-binary people. Yeah, the non-man loving non-man definition you see everyone online blabbing about isn't actually official, and is a definition that was created to include non-binary people into lesbianism. Oh, and on top of that, when it comes to Mspec lesbians who use the split attraction model as a reason for their identity, the definition of lesbian does technically include them. If you look really closely, you can see that it states that you can be exclusively attracted to women romantically or sexually to be a lesbian. It clearly acknowledges the split attraction model. If the term lesbian didn't acknowledge the split attraction model, the word and would be there, not or. That's just how language works. Now, this begs the very important question. If Mspec lesbians aren't real lesbians because the definition of lesbian doesn't include them, even if we ignore the fact that the definition does actually include some Mspec lesbians, then why should we consider non-binary lesbians to be real lesbians? And you may say, oh, well, we should use the non-man loving non-man definition. Which, let's just break down this definition and what makes it heavily flawed. First of all, while doing some research, I realized that this definition isn't really officially written down as the main definition of lesbian in many places, despite people's insistence that this is the correct, right, official definition. You never actually find it in many places other than in a few obscure LGBTQ wikis that usually just mention it as a quick note and not the main official definition. This is in contrast to the term bisexual, which also got a recent rewrite that is actually incorporated into the official Oxford definition. For context, the term bisexual used to mean someone who is attracted to both men and women, but it has since been added onto as someone who is attracted to both men and women or to two or more genders. This was done to include non-binary people. This just shows that the definition people online want to claim is official isn't actually official. Now, let's acknowledge that the non-man loving non-man is a fucking terrible definition on its own, seeing as loving is one of the most vague terms on the fucking planet. Let's give it a minor rewrite to make it an actual passable definition. A non-man who is sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to non-men. Now, let's rip it apart. First, you may notice that the same "or" is in there, which implies both attraction, which includes Mspec lesbians. But of course, that's disingenuous of me, isn't it? Let's replace the "or" with "and." A non-man who is sexually and romantically attracted exclusively to non-men. But guess who that excludes? Asexual and aromantic lesbians, a group that, guess what? The type of exclusionists I'm talking about here are so unbelievably set on defending the validity of. Taking away the split attraction model from the term lesbian harms asexual and aromantic lesbians. Oh, and just to mention it again, lesbians who are attracted to women and non-binary people are Mspec lesbians. You don't have to be into men to be Mspec. You just have to be attracted to multiple genders. Non-binary people are either partially or completely removed from the gender binary, meaning, yeah, if you are attracted to non-binary people and women, you are Mspec. But for some reason, exclusionists have dubbed this very specific form of Mspec lesbianism valid because reasons, I guess. You can like non-binary people, but you can't like men. That makes sense. Now, let's discuss lesboys real quick, because gender is a spectrum. Excluding any gender from a sexuality becomes very difficult. Let's take our so-called inclusive definition again and discuss it a bit more. A non-man who is sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to non-men. Well, one thing to note is that sometimes these exclusionists will be okay with bigender or gender-fluid lesbians, even when they may identify masculinely. Gender-fluid people may occasionally identify masculinely, same with bigender people, as some may partially identify as male. So if we want to include those people, let's change the wording. Woman or non-binary person who is sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to women or non-binary people. But now we run into another problem, because guess what's on a spectrum?
You!
Because guess what's on a spectrum?
Gender!
Gender is on a spectrum, like I said earlier. Just like gender isn't binary, it isn't a trinary either. Demi-boy lesbians are often criticized by these kinds of exclusionists because demi-boy, while being under the non-binary umbrella, is also considered male-aligned. The new definition would include any demi-boy lesbian who considers themselves non-binary. Exclusionists. There is literally no way to twist, stretch, or distort this definition to make it include everyone you want it to include and exclude everyone you want it to exclude. The solution to this issue is to acknowledge that LGBT labels aren't strict rules or boxes that we need super specific definitions for. They're a foundation that any individual can interpret in any way they see fit. What lesbianism means to you may not be what lesbianism means to a lesboy or Mspec lesbian, and that's okay. Labels are meant to be inclusive, not strict little boxes you're forced into. That literally ruins the point of why the LGBT community was created in the first place. People often portray Mspec lesbianism as though it's a new thing, when it is not even close to the case. The term lesbian to describe women loving women was first coined in the 1870s. Lesbianism was in no way exclusive to just being attracted to women. It just meant you were a girl who was attracted to other girls. In the 1970s, something called political lesbianism popped up. Political lesbianism was a feminist movement where women would basically choose to stop dating men and date women instead to disconnect themselves from men. It's related to lesbian separatism. This political movement is what caused the term lesbian to become more specific and rigid. Political lesbians would then shame bisexual women because they were attracted to men and essentially kicked them out of lesbianism. Bisexuals belonged in lesbianism until lesbian separatism came along. And of course, when Mspec people who feel connected to the term they were historically included in and want to use that term, they can't because of sad little exclusionists. Lesbian exclusionism is rooted deeply in bisphobia as well as TERF rhetoric. Yeah, I'll get into the TERF stuff. Lesbian exclusionists use many arguments that align with TERF rhetoric, especially when it comes to lesboys, such as blaming lesboys for making lesbians feel unsafe, in the same way TERFs do with trans women. One very common argument used by TERFs is that men, aka trans women, shouldn't be in lesbian spaces because not only does it make some lesbians feel unsafe, but that trans femme lesbians are identifying that way out of some kind of sick fetish for being a woman and being a lesbian. This should ring a bell. Of course, exclusionists say the same shit about lesboys. The whole men fetishizing being a woman thing is a hypothesized paraphilia called onogynephilia, where a man receives sexual pleasure imagining themselves as a woman. The term was coined by a transphobe named Ray Blanchard? Blanchard? Fuck, I don't know. And is used constantly to shame trans women and claim that their existence is a perverted fetish. Ray's findings have been rejected by medical professionals because it's all essentially nonsense. Oh look, here's a direct quote from his Wikipedia page that actively supports the link between autogynephilia and TERFs. According to Julia Serrano, Blanchard, that's what I'm going to call him, Blanchard's autogynephilia theory is commonly used by trans exclusionary radical feminists or gender-critical feminists to imply that trans women are sexually deviant men. According to Southern Poverty Law Center, Blanchard's autogynephilia theory has been promoted by anti-LGBT hate groups. These include Family Research Council, FRC, United Family International, UFI, and the American College of Pediatricians, ACPEDS. The notion that lesboys are fetishizing lesbianism is a concept that is noticeably similar to the idea of autogynephilia. Think about this for a second. If men in lesbian spaces are fetishizers, then would it really be that much of a stretch to say that trans women may be doing it for the sake of a fetish too? That's what I hate about these TERFy exclusionist arguments. They open the gateway for TERFs to fester and eat away at the LGBT community's progress in inclusionism and safety. And also, I would love to see some studies that prove that lesboys are fetishizing lesbianism. Like, come on guys, at least Ray tried. Now, let's discuss and debunk some miscellaneous arguments I've heard from exclusionists.
Why can't Mspec lesbians just use the term sapphic? And why can't lesboys just say that they're straight?
You could use this argument for so many other things in the LGBT community. Why can't omnisexuals just use the word bisexual? Why can't non-binary lesbians just use the word trixic? Why can't trans women just use the term cross-dressing man? Why can't trans men just use the term tomboy? And why can't bisexuals just use the term straight or homosexual? Because that's how they feel most comfortable. And you do not get to dictate what terms someone uses, especially when it's been historically taken away from them due to the same arguments you guys are pushing. And either way, why do you fucking care? Like, I've tried so hard to kind of, avoid overemphasizing the why do you care argument, but really, why do you care? Why do you give a shit? Stop. But if you really want to know, I already explained it in the definition section of this video, so go watch that.
If creepy straight men think that lesbians like men, then they might try to hit on us.
Creepy men will hit on you whether you like men or not, so this argument is bullshit. Men who actually have basic respect for women will back off if the person says they're uncomfortable, whether the reason is that they don't like men or not. The only people to blame for creepy men being creepy are creepy men. Blaming random people that you don't like for an actual societal problem is just not okay in any way. I didn't really know where to put this, but I wanted to put it in anyway, so I'm just gonna talk about it with the miscellaneous points. Something I find really stupid, and this is a genuine asking thing. How can, and this isn't something I'm making up or something a few people believe. This is a genuine thing that the majority of exclusionists I've seen talking about Mspec lesbians believe. How can you support xenogenders but not Mspec lesbians? how do you think that you can be alien cat gender, but if you identify as a bisexual and a lesbian, then, you know, that's bad? Like, what? Like, how does that work? Like, the idea of xenogender specifically builds on the fact that that other people's identities aren't any of your business, and that you can have fun and play around and make up new things to have fun with your identity. That is what the xenogender community is about. As somebody who is in it, the xenogender community is based on fun, based on silliness, based on having fun with your identity. But apparently you can't be a bisexual and a lesbian because, you know, reasons, I guess. Like, how does that make sense? You have to have a very, very open-minded view on the LGBT community to think xenogenders are, like, a thing that is valid. Or, like, neo-pronouns as well. But apparently, you know, like, having two identities and putting them together is apparently, like, fucking evil, and, you know, that's stupid. Like, come on. Like, hell, like, I've seen people who use xenogenders and neo-pronouns who will complain about Mspec lesbians. Like, okay, cat gender. Like, this is coming from someone who uses xenogenders. Like, I'm not gonna respect, like, why are you expecting people to respect your xenogenders if you're not gonna respect other people's identities? Like, I'm not gonna purposely misgender somebody or, like, be a dick about it, obviously. But, like, really, why are you expecting people to give a shit about you, but not other people? And this goes back to what I was talking about in my, my video on or Punk Pup, where, I'll put the image on screen. It's a snake, eating its own tail, and that's kind of like, it's a symbol somebody made to kind of show how shitty exclusionism is, and how the point of it is that exclusionism, you may think that exclusionism will not hurt you, but it will. If exclusionism goes far enough and we allow it to fester, it goes far enough. It will go far enough to hurt you. Non-binary lesbians, Mspec lesbians, obviously, lesboys, butch lesbians, any, like, bisexuals, literally, exclusionism will come for you. I don't care if you think, oh, I go by xenogenders, but I hate Mspec lesbians, but I'm okay, I'm one of the good ones. No, it will come for you. That is a legitimate thing. Like, exclusionism harms everyone. It doesn't just harm the people you're currently at the moment excluding. It's harming literally everyone. It harms people who use xenogenders, neo-pronouns, non-binary people, trans people. It harms so many different people, and the fact that your entitled ass thinks they're not gonna come for me because I think I'm valid, but I think these people aren't valid, so I'm gonna be discriminatory. That's not how that works. It will come for you. Like, seriously, this is stupid. Stop with this dumb in-group fighting and realize that even if you personally disagree with somebody's identity, as long as it's in good faith, there is no reason why you should be discriminating against someone in your own community because you dislike them. Like, it's one thing if you personally disagree with their identity, but just, like, tolerate them. But don't be a fucking bigot. There are genuine bigots I've seen, genuinely being bigoted towards Mspec lesbians, and it's not okay. And the fact that people in the LGBT community who go by xenogenders, who are non-binary, so many people are doing this, it's insane. It is literally insane. Like, I don't understand how people think that that's okay. It's not. It really isn't. And I hope that this video genuinely helped people realize that their identity, that their beliefs on certain identities may be contradictory or harmful. Because shitting on Mspec lesbians is harmful. It ignores queer history. It's just shitty. It's bigoted. It opens the door for TERFs, it opens the door for anti-xenogenders, for anti-non-binary lesbians, for anti-bisexuals, for so many other identities. It opens the door to so much bigotry, and it shouldn't be a thing that we just collectively think, yeah, let's shit on this group of people. Especially when it's our community doing it to members of our own community. Stop it. Okay, I'll get on to the actual conclusion now. I just wanted to rant about that for a bit. In conclusion, the LGBT community is a place with so many diverse people with diverse beliefs, labels, and perspectives to put on the table. Exclusionism is full of TERF rhetoric, biphobia, acephobia, and overall bigotry towards people who they personally disagree with over stupid LGBT discourse when LGBT rights are literally being taken away as we speak. So, happy Mspec Lesbian Week! Let's go into Pride Month 2023 with less hatred in our hearts, and let's be as proud as ever to be us. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.